Althea Gibson. Inside of the room ended up being outside, which was one of Braxton's favorite places. He stood next to the court as he watched two women pound the tennis ball back and forth. It didn't take Braxton long to figure out which of the women was Althea Gibson. Braxton had never played tennis before. Of course, he knew what the game was, but he knew of no one who played it. He wasn't even sure if he knew the rules. Althea would hit the ball to the lady side of the court. The lady would run to catch it and hit it back. The lady must have been tired of running all around the court because she got closer to the net and to Althea Gibson. Braxton thought this was a tough move. It seemed like a move a winner would take. The lady's tennis balls bounced back to Althea Gibson faster and faster. Althea Gibson swooped her racket to the speeding sphere and sent it soaring over the lady's head. The lady couldn't catch it fast enough. It bounced out of the box as fast as it bounced in. The small crowd cheered. Althea Gibson won the match. Braxton shared in her joy. He knew how it felt to play against someone in a really hard game and finally win. Braxton followed Althea Gibson to a practice court. There she was, talking to a friend. "Is there anyone that you can't beat?" her friend asked. "It's hard to tell. They only let me play in certain games." "How are you going to prove to everyone that you're the best if you can't play against all the other players?" "I don't know," Althea Gibson said as she took her last sip of water. She went back to the court to practice hitting tennis balls. Braxton followed Althea Gibson on her journey from practice court to practice court, from gym to gym, day in and day out. He had followed her enough to know that the lady did a lot of practicing. Finally, Braxton saw Althea Gibson sipping water in between practice again. "Hey Althea," her friend said as she joined her by the water cooler. "You've already beaten everyone in the state. You don't even need practice. One day, I'm going to have a chance to beat everyone in the world, and I have to be ready. You've been thinking that for years. I hope that works out for you." Braxton was shocked to hear that Althea Gibson was practicing for nothing. He knew if it was him, he would just stop. Why win in the playoffs every year if no one would let you play in the Super Bowl? Braxton followed as Althea Gibson continued on her journey. He followed her down a long hallway and then into a huge stadium. There had to have been thousands of people watching. Braxton knew that this must have been Althea Gibson's big chance. Why she had trained so much and beat all of those people in the small stadiums. This had to be the big moment. Althea Gibson worked hard, as she always had, when he saw her practice and play. Her opponent didn't scare her. The sweat didn't stop her, and all of the running didn't slow her down. She fought long and hard until she won the final point. Braxton knew when it happened, too. Althea Gibson's smile showed through her tears. She was presented with a large, fancy plate. The plate was large enough to feed a giant. When Braxton went to follow her back to the long hallway, he found himself standing in his front yard. He was next to his brother's favorite climbing tree. Althea Gibson went on to win 56 national titles. She never gave up on her dream, even when reality told her it was impossible. "Now it's your turn," the voice from nowhere said. Braxton looked up at the tree. He already knew what his challenge was, because he had tried it many times. "Your adventure, should you choose to accept it, is to climb this tree," the voice from nowhere told him. "I can't do this." Braxton barely spoke above a whisper. His brother climbed the tree every day. It wasn't even that his brother loved climbing the tree. He simply loved that Braxton couldn't climb it. Braxton wasn't tall enough. Every day, his brother would run ahead of him on their walk home from school and climb into the tree. Braxton had finally decided he'd just wait a few years. In a few years, he would grow and could finally reach the lowest branch. He would show his brother then. He would climb to the highest branch on the top of the tree and look down on his brother before he was able to reach their street. Braxton sat at the base of the tree, like he did any time his brother wasn't watching. Last year, when Braxton's mom measured him on the wall, he saw that he had grown an inch. Right away, he ran outside to try to climb the tree again. He jumped and jumped and didn't understand why he couldn't reach the tree. He had waited all year for that moment. His brother saw his failed attempt and jumped right above him to pull himself up from the lowest tree branch. "The tree grows too, silly," his brother said to him as he continued to climb. "Do you want to end your journey?" the voice from nowhere boomed. Braxton knew he didn't want to quit. He was pretty sure the coin wouldn't work again if he tried. Even though he didn't know if the voice had eyes, he didn't want the voice from nowhere to see him quit. Braxton stood up and looked at the tree again. Althea Gibson didn't give up. She didn't even know that she could play in the big stadium. Braxton had given up trying for a whole year. Just think, if he continued to try every day, just maybe he would be able to jump higher. "No, I'll do it. I'm going to climb this tree," Braxton proclaimed. He stood back up so that he could get a running start. "Congratulations," the voice from nowhere said. "Your self-confidence awards you the next level." Before him, again, there were 2 doors. Which door will Braxton take? Langston Hughes, Ethel Payne.